From to till eventually they silent. So that way, you don't allow them to control your life. But really, is that right? It's not right. It's wrong. And it actually damages the children psychologically. Because just because they've been fed, or just because their nappies are clean, and they want to get hugged, they want to feel the closeness of the mother or the father, hugging and holding them. That is their right. But we deny them. This approach is what they call nowadays, they call it attachment parenting, where you are attached to the child is attached to you. You have that relationship. You hug them whenever they need it, you're there. If they need the breast, you feed them. It's not, it's not a question of thinking I'm too busy, no. You work it out, some way you wrap yourself up and you feed the kid. Even if when you put the breast in the mouth, the kid is not even drinking, just likes to keep it in the mouth. Okay, that's his right. That's her right. Let them have it. And psychologists looking at this process now have shown that in fact the character of the child that grows up with attachment parenting is far superior in terms of gentleness, warmth, how they communicate, how they react to other people, than those who are not. They now realize the damage, and they're encouraging people now to go back, leave the bottle. Now it's changed. But after how many years, generations that were raised like this? So we should be conscious of the right of our child in that regard and give them what they deserve, what is their right from us. The fifth basic obligation is that of Islamic education. Islamic education, meaning that we raise them Islamically educated. We have given them the maximum amount of information for them to be able to know what Islam is, to grow up conscious of Allah. Our first words, even that we try to get our child to say, rather than Dada and Mama, we try to get them to say Allah. Even the mother reciting Quran while the child is pregnant. They're showing now that the child actually can hear in the womb and react differently to different sounds. All of this, feeding them input, Islamic input. Teaching them right and wrong based on what is pleasing to Allah and what is displeasing to Allah. Not what we like and what we don't like. They can understand that too, we like, don't like, but what we like should be what is pleasing to Allah, what we don't like and what is displeasing to Allah. So we let them know first and foremost that you don't do this because Allah doesn't like it. You do this because Allah likes it. You try to give them that consciousness. And of course, when you're talking about the things in the world around them, you're talking always that, Allah gave us the sun. Allah gave us the moon. Allah gave us the trees. So you're letting them know everything is from Allah. And this reaction that when you know somebody gives you something, you're grateful to them, that is reinforced when you say, Allah, who did this for you, He says, don't do this, so don't do it, so you don't displease Him. You try to build the spark of taqwa, or consciousness of Allah. Because otherwise, as we said before, children imitate their parents. So what happens is that when we're praying, wives are praying, the little child will get up and stand beside us. At a certain age, they stand up and they do what we do. And when we see them do that, we're happy. It's pleasing. Look at that. MashaAllah. And we encourage it. And the kid will do it more and more and more and more. Till even the kid will get up by itself. Even when you're not praying, stand up. You'll be sitting around talking, and the little kid will get up. And everybody was saying, God, that's so and so. You know, look at Maryam. She's praying, mashallah. And she knows. She's doing it why? Because she knows you like it. It's pleasing to you. Maybe you give her some candy or give her something to show your positive reinforcement for her, what she did, etc. But technically speaking, if we continue to raise the children like that, then we are training them in Riyah. We're training them in Riyah. You know what Riyah is? You know what Riyah is? You know what Riyah is? Prophet Muhammad had said, the thing I fear most for my ummah is a shirk al-khafi, hidden shirk. So the companions asked, what is hidden shirk, O Messenger of Allah? He said, it is a riyah. So, what is a riyah? He said, it is to pray or to worship Allah seeking the pleasure or admiration of people. That people will praise you and say, what a righteous, what a lovely, what a pious, what a whatever. And the example he gave is that a man will get up to pray. And then he realizes there are people around. So now he becomes more, bends his head further. And the prayer becomes 3 times as long as he normally would pray. Normally people are gone. But now people are watching important people. So he wants to make an impression on them. So he makes his prayer louder. Of course, that act nullifies the reward. It's not kufr, it's not disbelief, but it nullifies the reward of that prayer. So now if we raise our children with that kind of consciousness, they're just doing it to please us. Their whole Islam is doing to please. Then, when the time comes, when now what they're doing creates difficulty for themselves. They're going to school. Their non-Muslim classmates are making fun of their hijab. Or maybe the kid is going to school wearing a thobe. Oh, the boys will make so much fun of him, he can't do it. Or he wears a cap on his head, whatever. Something which distinguishes himself. It becomes problematic. So what they do is, when they leave the home, they will leave the home wearing the hijab or wearing whatever. As soon as they get around the corner, off it goes, stuck in the bag, and they're looking like everybody else. They want to look like everybody else. So Islam is like a cloak. When it's not convenient, you take it off. When it's Eid, Salatul Janazah, Aqiqah, then we put on the clothes and we come. We're coming to the masjid. We put it on at that time. I remember I lived in East Malaysia for about 3 years. And I never saw a masjid there in East Malaysia. The British had required the Muslims to put their masjid outside of the city. So in the main city, Kota Kinabalu, there was not a single mosque. So when I went to study in Medina, the first Hajj, I saw people coming from different backgrounds, groups, coming for Hajj. Then I saw people who looked like Malaysians, but they were all wearing this full hijab, long white, they all wear white. They came. So I asked some of my friends, where are these people from? They said, from Malaysia. I said, but I never saw anybody looking like that there, dressed like that. They explained, what they do is that the prayer garments, this full thing that you see, they keep it in a bag. When they go to the masjid, they put it on, they pray, and they put it back in the bag and they leave. There's still places around the Muslim world that they're doing the same thing. So it's just a garment, it's just like a ritual. You cover up, you do the thing, put it back, you back looking normal, what they consider to be normal. So that child has no chance because his deen is based on riyah. If we don't give them that consciousness of Allah, then they cannot grow up doing what is pleasing to Allah, doing Islam, whether you're around or you're not around, whether you can see them or whether you can't see them. Taqwa is what is going to keep them on it, is going to allow them and to help them to grow up worshiping Allah. And in terms of the Islamic obligation, of course, it goes back to our examples. This is part of the education that we give them in the home, that whenever we want, as we said, our children to have certain qualities, we have to show those qualities ourselves. So most parents will tell their children, don't lie. Don't lie. You can do anything, but just don't lie to me. But if somebody calls the house and you don't want to speak to them, what do you tell the kid to say? Tell them I'm not home. Well, you just told them, don't lie. With here you told them, go tell them, I'm not home. So your own actions nullifies the very message or the lesson you're trying to teach them. You might say, well, what's it about this? You do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't work. Children will do as you do in the end. So we have to be consistent. If we don't want them to be liars, then we have to be consistent and not lie, regardless of the circumstance. And we also have to give them all of the basic Islamic training they should know about. Remember, in the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the Sahaba said, one of them had mentioned in particular, he said that, we went and stayed with the Prophet ﷺ for some time. We learned the Quran and learned the Deen. And then myself and the representatives of our clan, we went back to be with them. And when the time for prayer came, we looked around to see who had learned the most Quran. And he said it turned out to be me. And I led my people in prayer from that day onwards, all of my tribe, 300 plus people. I was 6 years old at the time. So, that child, 6 years old. Today, now, if we said 6-year-old is going to go lead us in prayer, I don't know, people would be fighting. What is this? Liar Jews. Please. We don't even want to keep them in the line with us. Put them in the back. But that's what happened in the time of the Prophet. They were taught Islam from the youngest ages. They learned Islam. So, the story of Dajjal, for example, our children should know it. But if you ask most kids today, and I won't bother to ask again, so no. Who was Dajjal? Dajjal? What's that? A new kind of drink? Like Gatorade or something like that? Dajjal? That's what they're going to question you. Oh, what's this Dajjal? But if you ask them, who was Lothar? Oh, he was the enemy of Batman. Who was so-and-so? Oh, he was the enemy of Spider-Man. And who was so? He was the enemy of Superman. They know all the bad guys were the enemies of these fictitious characters. But they don't know the biggest enemy of humankind, Dajjal. What does that say? We have failed. We have failed to educate them. This is basic education. So, from those early years, we should be giving them knowledge, of course, according to the level of their mental abilities, etc., so that they grow up with this kind of knowledge. And at the same time, scholars of the past were unanimous that giving our children to non-Muslims to be educated in their formative years is haram. To put our children in the hands of non-Muslims, to educate them in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 5, grade 8, grade 10. These formative years where their understanding of this world and Allah and all these things are supposed to be developed, this is haram. Because we are destroying them spiritually. We're destroying them spiritually. It is their right that we put them in Islamic schools. It is their right. Education is not just 2 + 2 = 4, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Education is fundamentally the transfer of a civilization's culture from one generation to the next. It's about culture. And the culture that we live in is a secular culture. A culture which has rejected Allah. So what do you expect to happen to these children? Of course, people will say, but look at Ahmed. He's okay, he comes to the masjid, he's praying now, mashallah, you know. It's not so bad, he survived. But if you ask Ahmed, how many other Muslim kids were in your classroom? 10 or 15? How many of them are like you coming to the masjid? 1 or 2? What is that telling us? See, we're eager to make the one who survives and make, look at this, mashallah. But we don't look out for the many, the greater number, the majority who are wiped out. They graduate from high school, they don't know who they are. They took world religions, which taught them all religions are the same. There's good in all those religions. They're all equal. To say that Islam is the true religion, that is extreme. That is, chauvinistic. It is this, it is that. You feel shy. Islam is like all the other religions. So they graduate. Islam, Allah, Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. Maybe some of them graduate because of the mode of education today, which promotes alternative lifestyles. They will graduate and say to you from grade 12, whatever, they'll come to you and say, Dad, your son, Dad, I'm not really sure I'm a boy. I feel like a girl inside. Of course, what is this? You're in shock. What he's been taught is that you're supposed to say, oh, really? You feel like a girl inside? Well, maybe you're really a girl. On the outside, you're just looking like a boy. We do have sex change operations and these type of things. We can straighten it out. It's okay. All of this is coming. All of this is coming. In Toronto, they wanted to set up a gay mosque. You didn't hear about it? Yeah, they wanted to. But the Muslim community said, you do, we'll burn it down. So they didn't. Maybe they have it on the ground or whatever, but they wanted to do it. Yeah. This is what's coming. And where does it come from? You're not teaching them that at home. It's from this school system. That's why we have to be very, very careful. Weekend school, Saturday, Sunday, cannot compete with 5 days a week. These teachers feeding them subliminally in their brains, in their heads. It's coming. And it's not that the teachers necessarily are, evil, conspiring, we gotta twist these Muslim kids' minds. No, they're just telling what they learned. This is what they understood. This is the real, this is the truth. It is about evolution. Grandpa really was a monkey. We got all the proof. Look at all the bones and that. It shows you Grandpa was a monkey. There's no problem about that. So, they're just relating what they learned. That's what the society taught. And that's what they're feeding our kids. But we have a whole different set of beliefs. A whole different set of moral principles. You have a society where fornication, adultery, is not a crime. It's not a crime. Something so foreign to Islam. This is what is taught. Sex education. The teacher will come in with what they call anatomically correct dolls and show the kids, little kids in grade 4 and grade 5, what's happening in the bedroom. Allahu Akbar. That's what's happening in this room. And then, when your daughter comes home pregnant, you say, what is that? Where did that come from? This is what's happening. How many cases? There's a lot of damage going on out there. So we have to think this out very carefully, very seriously. And I know personally, just a few days ago, in Toronto at a conference. One sister from Dubai, actually she's Pakistani living in Dubai. She used to attend my classes back in the 80s. And then she and her husband decided they wanted to immigrate to Canada to get the Canadian citizenship. And I advised them, don't take your children there. Or at least if you go there for the citizenship, once you've got it, get out. Because raising your children there is spiritual suicide. And she said to me, with tears in her eyes, my two sons just graduated from university, atheists. Atheists. She was a practicing Muslim. Husband was a practicing Muslim. That's what's ahead. If we're ready to stand before Allah and justify our children going astray, then no big deal. But if we fear standing before Allah and having to answer for our children going astray, then we better be doing something now. Don't wait until it's too late. And the sixth obligation that we have is to produce a Muslim home for them, a Muslim environment for them to grow up in. So this is what they're in contact with whenever they're at home. It is free from corruption. It is free from whatever is displeasing to Allah. The Muslim home is not the home which has Yasin on the wall. You know, people think a Muslim home means you have Surah Yasin done in nice gold letters and beautiful calligraphy, and you put it on your wall. We now have a Muslim home. This is not a Muslim home. This is not the sign of a Muslim home, proof of a Muslim home. We are believing about Yasin things which are not even authentically established. Yasin is not the heart of the Quran. That's what Shawwali told us. He grew up believing everything, لكل شيء قلب. وقلب القرآن Yasin. Everything has a heart. And the heart of the Quran is Yasin. This is not authentic. Corrupted hadith. But everybody's thinking this is what it is. So Yasin is the one surah. If you don't learn any surah from the Quran, you make sure you learn Yasin. Yasin is so important that we call ourselves our children. We give them the name Yasin. But think about it. If somebody said, my kid's name is Kaf, Ah, Ya, Ain, Sa'ad. What are you going to say? My kid's name is Qaf. What are you going to say? You went mad or something? Why are you going to give your kid a name like that? But we don't have any problem with Yasin. It's really no different from Kaf, Ah, Ya, Ain, Sa'ad. In fact. So, the Muslim home is one where the child will have access to Islamic literature, an Islamic environment. The Quran is playing in the home, you know, the mother and father show an Islamic behavior, a peaceful household. They're not fighting each other openly. If they have disagreements, etc., they do it privately, not in front of the children. And in the Islamic home, actually, we have to be even careful about who we bring into that home. We may have relatives or friends, whatever, who we know are not following these principles. Everything is open for them. Kids are watching, parents are watching pornography and the kids are sitting there watching it. And now you invite them over to your home. And their kids sit with your kids. You know what? whatever you're trying to do is undermined in a minute. So you have to be very careful even who you invite into your home, even if they're relatives. And I'm not saying you break relations with relatives, because of course, Prophet ﷺ said, one who breaks relations will not enter paradise. So we're not talking about that. We're just talking about preventing harm from coming into the home. So though you may maintain a relationship over the telephone, you go visit them, whatever, you personally, whatever, but don't let them corrupt your environment, your home environment for your children. And the last basic and important principle is that we need to raise the children disciplined, giving them discipline. In Islamic teachings, Prophet Muhammad said, teach your children salah by 7 and spank them for it by 10. So in Islamic teachings, it is permissible to spank children. In Canada, Canadian law, it's not. So, you're living here, what do you do? So, you have to obey the law of the land. Otherwise, child welfare is going to come in and take your kids away. Maybe put them in a non-Muslim home. So, that much of Islamic principle, you have to put on hold. You cannot practice it here. It's not permissible. You have to look at the greater benefit and the greater harm. This was a recommended sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, not an obligation. And it's only when needed, because he was not known to hit any of his kids. Not known, not recorded at all. So really hitting is a last resort. Last resort. If you're in an Islamic state. Right? Here, remove that. Instead, there are other means they call positive reinforcement, where you give the child things that are pleasing to them when they do what you ask them to do, and you take things away from them which they like when they don't do what you do. And that oftentimes has a far bigger impact than even hitting. It's psychological. Hitting is pain. It has a psychological effect too, but not like positive reinforcement. So we have to utilize what is available to us. We have to get some knowledge of this and do it consistently, not only when we're upset. You're not going to get into this because you're now mad about it. No, it has to be consistent. For it to register in the mind of the child, it has to be consistent. And it shouldn't be, dad is going to do it, but mom doesn't. So they always run to mom. No. Or mom says, time to discipline the child, you do it. So dad is looked at as the disciplinarian, the bad guy. Mom is the good. No. It should be shared. And to be able to do this effectively, we also have to know the different stages that children go through. There are stages which are identified by specialists, child psychologists, etc. For example, 2 years old, there's a term people use, they call it the terrible twos. The terrible twos. Kids are just wild at that time. Now, if you don't know about the terrible twos, and you're raising kids, and all of a sudden 2 kicks in and the kid goes crazy, you think, Jim's got it. Get the imam to recite Quran over him, and But you need to know these different phases. They go through stage by stage, and it's common to most children. It's just something which Allah has put their development of their personalities go through these phases. So age 3, they like to play a lot. Age 4, they like to ask questions, they need answers. So don't just when they come at age 4 and they ask you questions, say, I'm busy. No. Age 4, you should answer answer your questions. Try to do it the best way you can. If they ask you, who created Allah? Dad. Get away, Satan's got you. Don't. No, if you don't know how to answer it, okay, because you never thought about that one, right? Go find an answer and give it to them. So that there's some explanation. They have understood something. It's not like a big question mark which remains in their head. You never answered it. They go ask mom says the same thing. A'udhu billah! So the kid grows up with this big question mark in their head. When they reach the age of 5, this is when they want to imitate and they copy. 6, they like to stand out, like to take things, write things, wear things, which make them different from everybody else. They like to stand out. So again, if we don't know what's happening, then we will misinterpret what's going on here. We think it's something they've gone astray or whatever. So important that we have this knowledge so that we can raise the children appropriately. So, going back to the beginning, the goal of parenting is raising righteous children. That's the goal. The Muslim taxi driver is superior to the doctor who happens to be a Muslim. That should be clear. The doctor who happens to be a Muslim could have been a Christian or a Buddhist or atheist or anything. His profession, how he practices it, is just as everybody else would. There's no Islamic perspective on it. Islam doesn't come into the picture. That Muslim taxi driver was a Muslim first. Somebody calls him up and says, listen, I got to pick up a 6-pack from, I need to take it over. He says, sorry, I'm busy. He knows he can't be transporting alcohol. Or he gets a ride and the ride happens to be a pimp. He says, listen, I got this business going on the side, I can make some good money for you. No. It's not about money. It's about halal money. Drugs, all kinds of things are out there being offered to those people who are in the taxi business. So what does the Muslim taxi driver do? He doesn't go to the areas where the major corruption is. He knows there's the red light district, there's this street and that street where all the action's going on. You get a lot of customers, but who are these customers? The worst of mankind. They're climbing in your cab. So, you know what's coming with it. So what do? You work in the daytime. When people are sober and this stuff isn't going on, you make less money, it's true. But again, that money you make which is halal is blessed. The money you make which is haram is cursed. So that's your priority. I want to make halal money. And I'll turn my taxi into a da'wah mobile. How do I turn my taxi into a da'wah mobile? I have a flap hanging over the seat. For those who sit in the back of the seat, there's a flap which comes down and has pouches. In the pouches I have Islamic pamphlets. Sign above it, free. Please take one. You're not forcing it on anybody. If they're interested, that's da'wah. Everywhere you're driving, everybody who gets in, da'wah is happening. What do you play on the radio? Boom, 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 boom. You don't play that stuff. Instead, you play Quran. Translation. Quran is being recited. For yourself, for those people. Or you put on a discussion, Islamic discussion, debate. You heard it 10 times already, it doesn't matter. For the person who's riding in the car, they're hearing it. They think you're listening to it, but you're giving them dawah. And you're courteous, you're showing the hospitality, etc. of the Muslim, what we're taught. Your cab becomes a dawah mobile. You're a da'i calling to Allah while driving cab. A Muslim cab driver. That's what we should want for our children, rather than a doctor who doesn't know who he is. He didn't know that it was haram for him to major in gynecology. As a Muslim doctor, after you've done your basic training, then you go and specialize. To go and specialize in gynecology is haram. Yeah, when you study medicine, you learn some gynecology, so if circumstances develop, you can handle it. But you don't make that your tahassus, your specialization, meaning what? Islam teaches you women are supposed to be covered. And the women are coming into your office, you're telling them, take off your clothes and lie on this bed. Hey, is that appropriate for a Muslim? Is that appropriate? You have a doubt about it? What do you think? Appropriate or it's not appropriate? In certain ways it is appropriate. What certain way is that? What is the status quo? Status quo is that most gynecologists are men. Most, the top gynecologists are men. And that is okay in this society because no problem. Don't consider it to be anything. The doctor is just doing his job. But how many cases of molestation by doctors, male doctors to females, not female doctors to males, male doctors to females, are in the courts every year? How many cases? You go and look at the statistics and you say, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. It is not appropriate. What we say is that we should have our women specialize in gynecology. Yes, we should have gynecologists, but they should be women. This is the field that they go and they specialize in. Just like a woman, she wants to specialize in male genital infections. This is just not appropriate for her to go into that field. It's a field, but it's the one that men do, because it's dealing with men. If you are a doctor who happens to be a Muslim, then this is not a consideration. You look to see where is the most money. Most money is in delivering babies. So that's what I want to be, gynecologist. Because he's looking at money. But as a Muslim doctor, he has to look and see what is appropriate for me. It may not earn as much money, but it is serving the Muslim community, I can feel that the money I'm earning is halal before Allah. So this is the type of child we want to raise, with that consciousness of being a Muslim first. I'm Muslim, and everything after that is in accordance with me being Muslim. Barakallahu fikum. I hope, inshallah, that Allah would wake us up to our responsibility to our children, to raise them properly as righteous Muslim children, to forgive our parents and their failures to do that for us. We learn from their mistakes, not repeat them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help our children, especially those who don't have good examples, those who would raise them righteous. We ask Allah to provide for them others who would come to their aid and help them to find Islam and to grow up righteous children. I'll stop here, inshallah, if you have any questions. I don't know how much time we have. What is our timing here? Clock is, it's 20 after 3. Okay, we'll have questions for about 10 minutes. 15 minutes. And then, inshallah, I need to depart. Kids are never satisfied. We are stern with them, but making great efforts and compromises to help each other. The more we do, the more they want. They're not happy unless they get a treat or go somewhere. They're very moody. Obviously, this is somebody who doesn't want to have kids. Hearing all this stuff here. They're really sad that they got kids, you know. Astaghfirullah, I shouldn't have any kids. They're very moody, constantly have to be told to do their chores. Early teenage girls. When, how will they learn that to make it easier on all of us, they should do what they know they're supposed to do? How can they understand to be more appreciative of everything